certain situations in people's lives which are really difficult and really traumatic, like loss of a loved one, or even losing a job, extreme financial duress, even breakups. Some things that are so difficult to manage even after all kinds of, shifts in thought process. So how is that really possible with these simple tweaks? Is it possible?
Fantastic. Undoubtedly it is. Let's see few small changes that can be done even for somebody who's watching this. And if they would like to start applying this little quick tool, let's understand what is causing a person to live a moment all the time repeatedly, though it may have happened in the past, like as if it's happening now. Okay. Yes. In NLP, we have a concept of what is called perceptual positions. Right? So when we say perception, means your ability to absorb and understand and gather information around you is the perception and the image you're making out of it. There are what are called perceptual positions. Means very simple. Let's say you are sitting in a movie theater, okay, and you're watching somebody on the screen in front of you. There may be bloodshed, fighting, or anything unfolding on the screen. You are very easily disconnected from it. You will be involved, you'll be crying, whatever. But the minute you walk out of the movie theater, you've left everything behind because you were not inside the movie to begin with. Okay? Meaning you are a mere viewer, disassociated, and you were disconnected from it. And you can easily cut cords and move out. With our own abilities, we unknowingly sometimes are constantly an actor in a movie with our past experiences, which means it's an associated state, like as if it's happening to me right here, right now. Okay. So in perceptual positions, let's understand what are the three perceptual positions. The first one is what is called associated perceptual position, also called a first person. Means it's happening to me here and now, and I am the actor in this movie. Okay. Associated. Perceptual position number 2 is what is called disassociated. Means I'm just a viewer watching a movie unfold. I'm not the actor. Even if it is an actor who's sitting and watching his own movie, he is still going to be disconnected, disassociated with it. Okay. Position number 2. Position number 3, which is called double disassociation, okay, or is also called the third person. It's almost like you are sitting in the projection room of a movie theater, okay. Imagine you are an actor, you are a viewer, and you are in the projection room. That means if I was in the projection room, I can see myself watching myself on the screen, but I am doubly disassociated from it, okay. So with large fears, phobias, a lot of internal trauma past work, okay, even just a disassociation works beautifully. So the minute you step out, imagine you are an actor and you just gave a certain shot and you don't know, or you can't be a judge of your work till you have not become a viewer to it. Okay, so the minute you come out of that frame and watch a re-recording of it, you realize, oh, I did that well, I can do that better. This is what needs to be tweaked and changed, implying that just moving yourself out from a disassociated position, just watching it, brings about a lot of shift and a change. A lot of people's linguistics also keep saying that I am suffering from this, I am going through this, this is happening with me. Again, ing, that means present participle. It is as if it's constantly associated. But the minute they move out and they're a mere viewer, a lot of ache and pain start coming down. So what I can encourage people to do who would be watching this and want to start dealing with something from the past is just see yourself sitting in a movie theater watching that entire episode that you so-called feel is trauma, or where you've lost your job, or whether it was loss of a loved one. It could have also been assault, abuse, verbal, physical, whatever. I mean, people go through massive there's a plethora of things that people have had dealt with in the past, and you can pick from that box what you want, see it unfolding in front of you on a movie screen, and you only become a viewer. The minute you step out, especially in the recent past, in the pandemic, some people who've lost their jobs and have called up on the phone. We've done an exercise that, all right, if you've lost a job, rather than blaming the system or the company, step out of that situation and watch yourself as a viewer of what happened. And when they see themselves from a second person's perspective or disassociated, they'd say, you know what, they are not to be blamed fully. I probably didn't put in what I should have last few years. And now they have a second person perspective rather than being so in that emotion. Okay. Yes. Another thing that happens the minute you disassociate yourself and step out is, imagine the glass is full. There is no place for ideation. Till you don't empty the glass, nothing new can be generated. So even if you know a solution for your problems, you are so filled and associated with that emotion that it doesn't let a solution emerge. So the minute you disassociate, it's almost as if, now space is created for a solution to emerge out of me. And so disassociation works wonderful. Just a mere disassociation doesn't work sometimes because it's so intense an emotion that's coming up. A double disassociation works beautifully. So they not only watch the episode and heal it from a disassociated process, but they also doubly disassociate, work on what we discussed earlier, which are submodalities, which they reduce the intensity. You know, when you're living something, the intensity is so high, volume is high, color is high. So you play around with the submodalities, make that image mute, change it from a color to a black and white of what you're watching. Now think about it. Would you want to sit and see a mute black and white movie? You don't feel engaged. Your brain says, nah, I'd rather not watch that if I have something bright and lovely. So unfortunately, everything from the past, which is bright and lovely, which is good, continue to keep it like that. But if it is not good, move it to intensity lower, and you are just a viewer. You fix everything. You forgive the person who did it to you. I mean, there are parts of the process. You forgive yourself in that, because a lot of people come with massive self-blame, and that's what eats them from within, whether it's loss of a job, loss of a loved one, or whether it is abuse of any nature that has happened, or even addictions that they may have picked up. There's a lot of self-blame and guilt that they go through. And there are some incredible exercises that one can do in sheer changing position of how they're viewing it. So it's not so intense. You can change that, and then you can become a third person as well, just watching yourself heal and being healed. And sometimes this exercise is a mere 4-minute process. And, we take people into the Himalayas and the mountains with us that have had issues with height and depth, and I get vertigo and I have this. There are physiological responses, no doubt. With a fear, there are massive physiological responses. But just there, literally a conversational hypnosis, because you let that person work from his world. He has created a certain fear because probably it saved his life in the past. But now that fear is holding him back from exploring such beautiful aspects of his own life and personality. So contextually, you hold on to that fear, but in certain contexts, you let go of it for as long as it's serving a good purpose. And we've had people climb huge mountains with us, do valley crossing in valleys, and the so-called in the past had issue with heights and vertigo and whatever. So it's quick as long as the person is ready to make that change.
Everything you've just described about being an observer of your life, a witness, the word witness comes to mind, because this is literally, if you go into any deeper study of anything, like for example, I'm deeply studying Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, it's at the forefront. Or even if you start studying Vedanta, it's also at the forefront, where you are a witness to your life. And once you really have that understanding that, it's literally a question of not emotionally engaging with everything that happens to you, watching it and allowing it to happen, and just keep watching it as the observer, and then knowing that, all right, I'm observing. So just that knowing that you're an observer is also an observation, and that is who you are at the core. That's what we learn in these very ancient scripts and texts. And here we are in the 21st century learning the exact same thing through NLP. So surely it is an extremely spiritual process in my understanding.
Undoubtedly it is. And you beautifully encapsulated it. If you look at something as simple as Vipassana, and what did Buddha ask us to do was only use the power of observing where an emotion is coming up from, and start using the analogy of an itch or a twitch on the body and non-reacting to it. And sometimes even in NLP, knowing where in the body we have stored a certain emotion, where is an emotion coming out of unknowingly, mere observing, even aches and pains that happen in the body, it literally is an unconscious signal. It's NLP kinesiology, or an aspect of kinesiology, where aches, pains, itches, twitches, rashes, allergies are the unconscious telling or bringing your attention to something. And it's almost as if somebody's knocking the door, and if someone repeatedly is knocking the door and it manifests as a headache or an ache or a pain, and it's simple. You open the door and say yes, and the minute the delivery of the message is done, the person goes and the knocking stops. So compare the same with an ache or a pain in the body. If there is an unexplained ache or a pain, not something that you know what the physiological reason is, but if unexplained something comes up, it's a matter of us just checking in with that part of our body, that space, and asking it, yes, what message do you have for me? Feel free to deliver the message, and I now permit you to leave my body. Something as simple as that.
Like you said, we all come with this toolbox of abilities to self-heal, to get ourselves out of whatever it is that, of course, ultimately is in the mind holding us back. So if I can just request you once again, because it's so beautiful when you give us these small examples and exercises, so if we can kind of end with a little exercise, a takeaway from this conversation, and maybe just a summary, a quick recap of what we've discussed so far.
This section, we specifically looked into perceptual positions, which is associated, which is first person, disassociated, which is second person, and third person, which is called double disassociated, right? A quick example can be where it comes from the body of Dr. Fritz Perl's work. It's a Gestalt method. Also, let's call it a 2-chair exercise, okay? Where imagine you were to take 2 chairs, an empty chair, and Dr. Fritz Perls uses as an empty chair process, okay? So there are 2 chairs. You sit on one, and in front, which is the empty chair, you can, for a moment, think of a person with whom you have an unresolved issue or an aspect of life. Whether the person is still alive or not in their body anymore, they may have transitioned, but the issue is still unresolved, okay? Or something is holding you back from calling them up, apologizing. It could be ego issues, whatever. So in the empty chair, imagine the person is sitting in front of you, okay? And you are encouraged to pour your heart out and say whatever you want to from your perspective. So chair number 1 that you are seated on is a representation of you, associated. Chair number 2 is person number 2, which technically means disassociated, right? So sit here, pour your heart out, whatever you wish to verbalize with that issue or aspect. Get up, okay? Maybe shake everything out, get up and go and sit on chair number 2. The minute you go and sit on chair number 2, you are now becoming that person who you have that unresolved issue with, who may be, let's say, person
can I
X.
ask you, is this physically set up 2 chairs and physically?
It works wonders. Yes. If you had 2 chairs, it works wonders. Okay. Because you're physically able to play it out. Go and sit on the empty chair, chair number 2. Become that person. Okay. Now you're looking at yourself from a disassociated perspective, right? And becoming person 2 or becoming person X, say whatever you wish to, that you know that person X is anyway going to say to you, okay? Or maybe something else emerges. Pour your heart out as person X. Now, you've already done associated, you've done disassociated. Another beautiful thing is to get up of person 2's chair as well, shake everything out, and actually start becoming an observer. So there's person 1, person 2. Person 1 has shared everything. Person 2 has shared everything. Now you become a double disassociated person. You go and stand here watching yourself, talking to person X, and see them resolve this and coming to a resolution, and keep stepping from person 3. Maybe you feel you're too close to the resolution. Walk a little behind as person 3. Find the right distance from the 2 chairs. Walk away as person 3 of double disassociation, realizing that these 2 have resolved whatever they had to, and check in with yourself at the end of this process. The intensity of what you were carrying before the exercise to the intensity of what you're feeling with the same aspect after the exercise will come down drastically, evaporate, okay? Or you may not even hold anything with the same intensity against the person anymore. Okay? There's a new perspective on things. That's why it's called a perceptual position shift. And sometimes just shifting this, massive change can be brought about. Okay.
And that would impact, in actuality, your dynamic or your rapport with that person.
Huge. Because again, in your internal world, you've created a certain image of the person, which itself is reframing and shifting. And in NLP, the beauty, everything is reframing. Okay. And the minute the reframe happens, it doesn't seem and feel the same way. It elicits a different response inside you, because every time it is what you do that fuels somebody else's behavior, actually. Okay. So we keep blaming the world that they need to change. But when we change, everything around us changes. So the minute your internal resolution has happened, if you were to encounter the person the next time, he will automatically know that you come from a different space of resolution, and he will react differently, undoubtedly, to the same setup.